folks, Monday night was the start of the battle rounds on Season 3 of The Voice, and they've gotten a facelift this year with the introduction of the steal. Now, the steal is where one coach can take a contestant that another coach has tossed to the wayside. But taking another coach's discards isn't called stealing, that's called scavenging. Once again, the coaches brought along their celebrity panel of helpers. Cee Lo Green had Rob Thomas. Back in the late 90s, everybody that I knew, male or female, had a crush on Rob Thomas, except for me. I did love Matchbox 20, though. Saw them in concert one time. Worst show I've ever seen in my life. I fell asleep, but I still love their music. Christina Aguilera had Green Day frontman Billie Joe Armstrong as her sidekick. I've never heard him speak before, but for some reason I always thought he was British. So I was pretty surprised when he came out and didn't have an accent. Wait a minute, was that a British accent I just spoke with, or Australian? Oh, who really knows the difference? And Blake had Buble, who I thought was a strange fit for Team Blake, although he's a gorgeous man. And Adam Levine had the lovely Miss Mary J Blige, who I think would have been a great fit for anybody's team. Well, she's been a guest mentor on American Idol several times, and I think she always gives pretty sound advice. One of these days, one of these shows is going to get smart and hire her on full time, because I think she would make an excellent judge, or coach, however you want to look at it. Anyway, moving on to the battle rounds. First up is Team Blake, with Casey Muessigmann versus Terry McDermott, with Carry On My Wayward Son. Of course, we remember Terry and his sloppy mullet as the first audition of the season, so I guess it's only appropriate that he should be in the first battle round, too. Micahel Buble said that Terry reminds him of an 80s rock anthem singer. I've said basically the same thing about Terry, but I think Micahel Buble meant it as a compliment. Well, I guess it would be a compliment at like a bar on a Friday night, but there were so many one-hit wonders and wannabe rockers back in the 80s. If you listen to most of the music, the rock music from that decade, you don't even know who's singing it because most of them sound pretty much alike. I just think it's very unlikely that we're going to see a new wave of 80s-type rockers anytime soon, and it's even more unlikely that Terry McDermott would be the Bon Jovi amongst them. Lucky for him, though, he doesn't have very stiff competition for the battle rounds. He's up against the former overweight wrestler with a cool last name, Casey Muessigmann. The advice for Casey was to change his technique and to not put a country spin on the song. I don't think he put a country spin on it at all, and I don't really think he has a technique, because he doesn't have a country voice. He auditioned with a classic rock song, and the costume. The cowboy hat and the old-fashioned shirts with little swirlies on them. He looks more like one of those country line dancers from the Achy Breaky Heart era than an actual country singer. So I'm not crazy nuts about either one of these guys, but it was pretty clear how this battle was going to turn out from the get-go. Well, Casey was basically told to fight, 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 and Terry was pretty much told not to mess up, and that's exactly what both of them did. Terry came on stage with the confidence of a seasoned performer. Casey came out like he was preparing for a wrestling match. They both sounded pretty good. Neither of them messed up too bad, except at one point where Casey tried to go hardcore and let out a scream. That didn't sound too good. Of course, all of the coaches gave the "Wow, Blake has got a tough choice ahead of him" speech, but it really wasn't a tough choice. Of course, Blake chose Terry McMullet since he knows what his voice is better than Casey does, and that is the truth. Next up, Team Adam, with Bryan Keith versus Collin McLoughlin singing Santeria. Remember, Bryan, he wants to follow in his father's footsteps and win Grammys, but he doesn't want his father's help. Yeah, right. I've always believed that nobody tries out for a show like this unless they really want to be famous. And if there's another way to go about it, they've probably already tried that too. Bryan probably just didn't want to embarrass his father on TV by telling the world that all of Daddy's contacts have dried up. I know Bryan had a really good audition, but for the life of me, I can barely remember it, so he must not have made a huge impact on me. He must be really good, though, because Adam and Mary had almost no advice for him. They had plenty of advice for Collin McLoughlin, though. Collin was the dude that dropped out of school to move back in with his parents and gamble with his future at hopes of becoming a star. Remember at his audition, people cheered when he said that he dropped out of school like it was something to celebrate? Mary wants him to have a pain and a crackle in his voice, and I think that's some pretty good advice. Adam thinks his pitch is almost too perfect and he could benefit from some imperfection. Once again, this felt like a setup. It was pretty obvious that Adam chose this song for Bryan, and then he coached him down to the last nuance. He coached Collin with some pretty blanket suggestions, and just like coached Bryan down to the last note, so I thought it was pretty much a setup. They both did a great job with it, even though I wasn't crazy about the song. Bryan has the look and the confidence. Collin doesn't really look like a star, but I like his voice better. I think it's more distinct than Bryan, so I would have chosen Collin. Blake would have too. Christina and Cee Lo like Bryan better, and of course, Adam had already made up his mind. He chose Bryan, but Blake and Cee Lo went in for the steal, or the scavenge. Well, Blake reminded Collin that Cee Lo would have chosen Bryan over him, so Collin went with Blake. Next up, we go to Team Cee Lo with Diego, Val, and J.R. Aquino with Jessie's Girl. Now, J.R. is the Alaska boy that's kind of a big deal on YouTube. Now he wants to prove that he's more than just an internet star. He didn't really need any coaching since he's used to covering songs. Gorgeous Peruvian Diego Val, on the other hand, was having a really tough time in rehearsal, and his excuse, "I'm Peruvian, man." Well, I guess that's better than admitting that he isn't that great of a singer. I thought this was a terrible song choice for Cee Lo to give them, but you know who I thought did the best job with it? Rob Thomas. I guess his coaching style is just that he sings the song and hopes that they'll get it. I don't know. Rob Thomas kept giving Diego Val that, "What the hell is he doing?" look. And he wasn't the only one. When JR and Diego finally took to the stage, I wasn't impressed at all by either one of them. I wasn't really expecting to be blown away, though. Team Cee Lo was a little bit thin in the talent department. Did y'all see who was in the audience, though, with JR's family? Rooting him on? It was Andrew Garcia from Season 9 of American Idol. JR is kind of like Andrew, too. He had one cover on Idol that really carried him a long way, Andrew did. But he was really pretty boring the rest of the time. Now, JR does really well with cover songs on YouTube, but sometimes that's a novelty that people enjoy that doesn't always translate to the big stage. I think JR is technically the better singer of these two, but Diego has a more interesting voice, even if it is as thin as the rest of him. He does make a more interesting contestant, though, so I think Cee Lo made the right choice declaring Diego the winner. Nobody tried to steal JR. Next up, we go to Team Christina with Deborah and Nelly's Echo. Nelly's what? I have no idea who this guy is. I didn't even remember his audition, but with like 64 people in the battle rounds, that's going to happen from time to time. I'm a little bit confused by the name. Nelly's Echo? It's plural, but he's only one person. So it's a little bit strange, but kind of cool at the same time. Well, Deborah's name isn't exactly common either, but as Steve Urkel's long-lost lesbian twin, she had one of the more memorable auditions. For them, Christina chose Message in a Bottle. Nelly's Echo had heard this song before, but he had never sung it. Deborah didn't even seem to know the song, so her nerves were a little bit frazzled, and he sounded much better in rehearsal than she did. Deborah didn't sound very good in rehearsal, but Billie Joe Armstrong thought that even her screw-up sounded great. I didn't really think so. When they hit the stage, though, I really liked both of them. I thought they both sounded great together, although Nelly's Echo could learn to use his high voice a little more sparingly, because it could get annoying after a while. I give the slight edge to Deborah only because I remembered her audition, so it felt like I've been rooting for her for longer. I pretty much expected that Christina would choose Deborah, and she did. Surprisingly, nobody tried to steal Nelly's Echo, which I thought he was better than the last steal, but whatever. Next up was Team Blake, Two Steel Girls versus Gracia Harrison with Sin Wagon by the Dixie Chicks. Now, apparently I missed Two Steel Girls' blind audition. It was on the show that I missed because they were going up against the X Factor, and I didn't want to miss the X Factor. A mother-daughter duo is a little strange. I know it worked for the Judds way back in the day, but that was a whole nother era of music. I just don't think it makes much sense today. It puts such a limit on what you can really do because you can't really sing a love song about a man. It doesn't make any sense singing that with your mother. And you can't really have any edge because some of today's music can contain a little bit of nookie, but you can't sing about that with your mom standing next to you. I mean, really? But, I mean, you knew it was going to be game over for these ladies when they were going up against Gracia Harrison, who the coaches hailed as the best country singer ever on the show after her audition. Blake thought that Gracia was too nervous and that Two Steel Girls don't really sound good together. I thought they all sounded okay, but the performance was just weird for me because it felt like a battle between Gracia and the daughter. And Mama seemed to be lurking around playing chaperone. I don't know. She seemed so out of place. She seemed more in the way than anything. She might be the more powerful singer, but she's right. She is the weakest link. Of course, Blake chose to keep Gracia, and that's not a surprise there. Maybe Mama should step aside and try to help her daughter out a little bit more because she's not taking her anywhere. And the last of the night, Team Cee Lo, Trevin Hunt versus Amanda Brown with Vision of Love. Now, the last performance of the night is generally the most anticipated. Most shows usually try to save the best for last, but this wasn't exciting at all for me, mainly because they already spoiled it. Well, they posted this video online as a teaser, a sneak peek at the battle rounds, so a lot of us had already seen the performance, and we knew that both of them would survive the battle rounds. We just didn't know which team they would end up on, so it was kind of a little bit of a dud to me. Now, we all remember the judges fawning over Trevin for his audition. I wasn't that crazy about him. He doesn't really have perfect control over his voice, which you need when you sing big songs like this. Good control is not enough because when the notes are really long and really loud, they have to be pitch perfect. Otherwise, they can be excruciating to listen to, and Trevor sometimes can be. Now, with Amanda, Adele's former backup singer, her audition was kind of a dud. It was a little bit boring, and Cee Lo was the only one that turned around at the last second. So Cee Lo paired them together because he was planning on tossing Amanda to the wayside. You see, this is is why I hate the battle rounds, because this is what happens. The coaches have made up their minds before the battle rounds ever start, and very rarely does something ever happen that changes their mind, so I hate that. Now, I did like Amanda better in this battle round. I thought she sounded better. Trevin, his voice just gets a little shrill at times, and I thought her voice was really good. Now, I do like that she auditioned with a quieter, more subdued song, and she was kind of holding back. And now we know that she really can go big. I just fear now that she's on Team Adam, she's going to go big all the time. Cee Lo ended up choosing Trevin like he had already planned to. Adam ended up scavenging Amanda. And so that's how it all worked out. Anyway, that was it for the first round of the battle rounds. I wasn't crazy about any of them, but I didn't hate it like I've hated the battle rounds in past seasons. So hopefully they'll get it over with quick, though. 6 in one night for 2 hours? That's not much, is it? Hopefully they'll speed things along. Anyway, leave me a comment and let me know what you thought about the show. Subscribe to me on YouTube, come be my Facebook friend, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.